Hi everybody, welcome back to your channel. I am very honored and privileged to be speaking to the FEI Secretary General, Sabrina Ibáñez. Sabrina, how are you?
I'm very good, David, and I'm very happy to be invited to your podcast. So thank you so much.
Before we get into the actual questions, I noticed that from your bio, you are the president of the Paralympic Committee, isn't that right?
Yeah, so what it is, it's APSO actually. It's an umbrella organization. It's the Association of Para-Olympic Sports Organization. So basically, what I do as president of this organization, we're an umbrella organization that represents the interests of our para disciplines in the Olympic movement.
Yeah.
In the Paralympic movement, excuse me. So you'll have tennis, you'll have cycling, you'll have a whole bunch of different disciplines. And what we want to do is make sure that our interests of our athletes are really brought at the forefront of IPC governance related decisions.
Yes.
So that's what I do.
So has working with people with disability, has that always been an interest of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it became, to tell you the truth, I've been with the FEI for 30 years.
Yes.
So when the FEI, decided to take on para-dressage back in 2006, we were one of the first international organizations to have a non-disabled and disabled discipline. And that's where I really got interested. Also in Aachen, I believe it was, during the World Equestrian Games, there was a demonstration about para-dressage athletes. And I was fascinated by that. And since then, my interest just kept on growing and growing and growing.
Because I understand that, because that's how I got started. I get started off working with people with disabilities, bringing them out to a local stables, and then I got interested into the stables and I started working with people with disabilities at the stables, and then I got into LegUpAbility, and then that took me to acting, not Reasonback, and here I am now interviewing the Secretary General of the FBI. So the first question I proposed to you was, how do you think, what role does the FEI have in encouraging and promoting inclusivity of people with disabilities?
Okay, that's a really good question. So basically, I think there are a few areas, as you just mentioned. One is from a governance perspective. So one is the fact that we were one of the first international federations to govern. That, kind of like a leading role with other IFs. Another is that in 2020, the FEI decided that para-equestrian had also to be in the center of all strategic decisions. And the General Assembly voted that the chair of para-equestrian also sits on the board. This way, it's always in everyone's mind, and the chair can help make the right decisions. Another way is by encouraging our organizing committees that host or that want to host world championships and big continental championships, such as the European Championships, to host dressage and para-dressage together. And we see that there's a huge benefit of that. Because then you have the different riders seeing each other, and you also have the public that moves around, and that has really helped things quite a bit. Another thing that we do from a governance related perspective is to have every 2 years we have para forums.
Okay.
So that is a platform where we discuss with different national federations, with officials, with athletes. They're invited to come up with thoughts on how to improve the sport, make it more inclusive, how to spread it out, how to develop it, and whatnot. So that's from a governance perspective. From a sports perspective, there are a few ways that we have been doing that, and I think the numbers show that we have been quite successful. One of the latest initiatives that we have created is the Para Challenge.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard about that. Now, the Para Challenge is actually an event, which is that has many purposes. One of them is to encourage different levels of para-dressage riders to develop. So you would have maybe somebody who has never done a para-dressage, but has done some therapy type riding, right? You'd have a beginner course for them. So they learn how to, move on to there. Then you would have an intermediate, somebody who has perhaps already a rider who has done a little bit of riding, but has not really advanced. And then you have the advanced. So you have this international competition with officials, and we also train the officials there, and we also have classification there.
Yeah.
So it's a one-stop shop that goes to different nations throughout the world who are maybe developing or interested, but don't have the right infrastructures. So this event helps create an infrastructure for the development of the sport, which is fabulous. So that's one of the ways. What else have we done from a sports perspective? From a sports perspective, we have also simplified the access, the progression from 1 stars, which is the lower level, to a 3-star. So it's a lot simpler.
Yes.
In addition, maybe from an inclusivity perspective, a couple of things that we have done, and of course, there's always room for improvement. But 2 years ago, we created, or was it last year? I can't remember anymore. We created an accessibility guide. And that accessibility guide, is to help organize, say, hey, we need to think about this. We need to think about that. And then they can integrate it in their planning when they want to organize any kind of championship, not only a para-dressage or a para-driving event, but any kind of event. So they think. That's important.
No, that is very important. I have 2 more questions. The first one, leading on from our previous question about talking about support mechanism, how do you think the FEI can support horse breeders and horse owners to develop more para horses?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think it is by also retraining some of the horses that we have.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about the level of, maybe let me just look at some numbers. Let me think of the numbers. Okay. Some statistics. Everybody loves statistics.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you gotta love a number. So maybe if you think about it, okay, maybe I'll give you some general statistics, then we end up with the horses. How's that?
Yeah.
So I looked at the numbers, and I saw that in 2016, for instance, now I'm not talking specifically about horses, but about events. We had 21 international shows worldwide, which is not bad.
No.
And then in 2022, we had 28. And last year we had 41.
Right.
Which is almost, it's like 46% increase, which is quite amazing.
Yes.
Then if you also look, which means that there is definitely a growing interest in our sport.
Yes.
And I'll get to that. When it comes to where these places are hosted in the past, there are about, 12 in 2022, there were 17 different nations that hosted para events. Last year, 22. It's increasing.
Yeah.
When you look at the number of athletes as well, in 2022, we had 329 international para-dressage athletes. And last year we had 413.
Very good.
Which is good. Plus another 30, so that was just for para-dressage, plus another 32 para-driving. So that's one heck of a thing. And now going back to your initial question was the horses. In 2022, we had 400 horses.
Okay.
And last year we had 528.
Perfect. That's good. That's good.
That means we're going in the right direction.
Yes.
Now, I think, as we mentioned before we started this conversation officially, when you see the level of riding in the past years, it has increased dramatically. I believe Tokyo was the first time that we didn't have a single horse from a riding school. They were all, none of them came from that. Yeah. And then on top of that, if you see that the 3 individual medalists, their scores were super high. They were 80 and above, I think.
Whoa.
Which
Okay.
is crazy, which
Yeah.
means that the level of training also with the horses that are there has increased dramatically, and there's
Yeah.
more interest. So I don't know if it is about convincing more breeders, but all I can tell you is that it's working, and we have more horses than we did in the past, and they're performing better.
It's good to hear a number that amazing that there's such a progression. And I think it's also probably the fact that we need to change our attitude towards breeding para horses. Why are we doing it? Like, is it
Sure,
for medical therapy reasons? We need
sure.
to change that from, no, these people are professional
Sport,
athletes and sport people, and they deserve professionally trained sports horses. Uh,
absolutely.
Going on to my next question, I know that I understand it a complex question.
Hmm.
Because for my viewers, in your opinion, how do you think we can encourage participation of riders with neurological disabilities or intellectual disabilities? How can we bring them into the mainstream para community and feel
Yeah.
more part of
Well,
it?
when it comes to neurological, that we do have many riders that have neurological
Yeah,
disabilities.
yeah,
Um, but it is true that intellectual impairments, for the moment, they're not eligible.
yes,
We are, of course, thinking about it and have been thinking about it for a long time, to tell you the truth.
yes,
The issue is that it is, it's quite complicated. It takes a lot of research,
yes, true,
and research means resources.
yes, okay, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? What we would need to do is develop first an appropriate classification. And that's where it gets really, really costly,
yeah.
is the classification. I'm not saying it's all about money, but I'm saying, let's face it, we all know that, huh?
We have to be
Um,
realistic.
we gotta be realistic. Let's not, turn around the pot or whatever. So you would have to develop an appropriate classification system, which we don't have in place.
Yeah,
Once that classification is in place, then you can actually do the sport structure, but you can't start the other way around, right?
yeah,
So that's what it is. With the neurological, it's already taking place.
yeah, okay, yeah,
But it is the intellectual impairment part, which is the missing link, and it would be
yeah,
beautiful. And then what we would need to do is, as with other para-related disciplines like para show jumping, for instance.
yeah,
In order to go there, you would need to also ensure that there is more, because we're the international governing body, right? We would need to make sure that there was how do I say it? That there are several nations that actually practice this nationally in order for it afterwards to be considered an international event. You see what I'm saying?
yes, yeah,
Because then it's the
no,
General Assembly needs to approve it, but it needs to be it needs to be happening somewhere, basically.
yeah, and I understand that last point, because I actually wrote an article for a magazine about this topic of
Okay.
para show something, and that was exactly my argument, that in order for international organizations such as yourself to recognize that we do need multiple of countries to host national sports. But the problem with that is it's kind of like with the chicken before the
Yeah,
egg
I
scenario.
know.
If we don't have events at national level, how do we encourage the individual people who
Yeah.
want to do para show jumping, but they don't have national events, and they
Hmm.
don't do events where then you don't see a need for it. So
Absolutely.
how do you break that cycle?
Yeah. Yeah, how do you break that? It's an excellent question, Dan. I guess what we should do, maybe first what we should do actually is audit. Find out what the interests are in
Yeah.
the different countries. And then from there, see how we can help create possible structures. So, but the first thing would be to really find out what is actually happening right now.
Yeah, exactly.
There is, I don't know if I wasn't able to see the video. I wish I had actually. There was a video around also about para vaulting.
Yes, okay.
And I believe that was with intellectual impairment as well. And apparently it was absolutely gorgeous what they were doing.
Yeah.
And they showed that video in Mexico to the European Confederation, so the European nations.
Okay.
And now, and maybe that's one way of doing it, is by going through the different, regional groups.
Yeah.
And finding out what they're interested in. What I understand from that para vaulting initiative is that there are other countries now in Europe that are possibly interested in following it, and they're basically learning from Slovakia, learning from Slovakia. Was it Czechia? I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was. Excuse me. No, it was Czech Republic.
Okay.
To find out, how they're putting it up, and they're maybe interested in doing it. So maybe that's the way of doing it.
Yeah,
I'm brainstorming with you right now because I hadn't really given it that much thought, but maybe that's the way to go about it.
Yeah. And then lastly, I always like to end up this question. Tell me, are you a mare or a gelding person?
Mayor.
Same here. I love mares. My heart was a mare, but I'm now learning dressage on a gelding, who is a lovely boy, but is not a mare.
Okay, that's okay.
Yes.
All right, and thank you for that question. I have never been asked that question before.
Oh, you're welcome. I always like to end on a
That's
positive
sweet.
and
Absolutely.
maybe topical question, but Sabrina, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you, David. I've enjoyed myself a lot. Anytime.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right.
And it has been a very insightful interview with the FBI Secretary General, Sabrina Ibáñez.
Excellent.
And I really hope you enjoyed the video and got a lot from it. So please stay tuned for more videos like this throughout the year. And thank you very much. If you like the video, please like and subscribe down below. And for me, goodbye. And Sabrina.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.